Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse. It's Nigel once again, and this is going to be another movie review. So, we continue our foray into the X-Men movies, and this time, it's time to get those tissues ready, because this is going to be a bit of a tearjerker. I am talking about Logan. So, as always, I'm not professional movie reviewer or a movie analyst or anything like that, just a man who enjoys a good time, which definitely good time to be had here. I remember seeing it in theaters for the first time when it first came out back in 2017, and now going back and watching it several years later, or still, who is as good as I remember it. It is not as good as I remember it. Let's find out. So, for those of you who have seen these reviews before, you kind of already know how this works. For those of you who haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and what I disliked about the movie. So, starting with what I liked. For starters, right off the bat, this movie is rated R. Yes, that's right. The gloves are officially off. No pun intended for Wolverine, of course, but the gloves are officially off. This movie is R-rated, meaning a lot more, or a lot more gore and violence, and a lot more swearing. And I think it definitely he fits the tone of the movie. Some movies are admittedly he rated R just for the sake of being rated R, but I think it definitely works here when it comes to the context of this movie. So basically, this is a much older Wolverine. This is several years into the future, or that being 2029. Well, it was several years in the future at the time, but anyway, so 2029 at this point. Pretty much just Logan that's left in terms of the X-Men. His friends are all dead, pretty much all deceased. Which man, that's the second time in this series that's happened to Logan there. But it's him and then Professor Xavier and Caliban, and so they're hiding out. How they're the last of the mutants essentially. Or at least they think, because as Wolverine's contacted by a nurse named Gabriella about a child essentially that she has, who turns out to be a clone of Wolverine, young Laura, aka X-23, and so Wolverine essentially he has to guide her, but she's being chased by the people that experimented on her that being Dr. Xander Rice and Pierce. Essentially, he is kind of I guess in a way goon, but kind of his like right hand. So they're chasing Laura, so Wolverine essentially has to fight them off. And because Logan's much older, his healing factor is starting to slow down quite a bit. He's not as agile as he used to be, and Professor Charles Xavier is having seizures, and his powers are essentially going out of control, which was what led to the death of presumably the X-Men, but several others as well. But there's also another clone of Wolverine, X-24, who is also unveiled. So essentially a prolonged chase. Eventually, Wolverine gets the kids to safety, but dies protecting them after X-24 impales him on a tree. X-24 also played by Hugh Jackman, and so Hugh Jackman is essentially fighting himself, but it makes sense because he's a clone. He's killed off by the adamantium bullet that Wolverine was going to use to essentially kill himself. And so Wolverine's buried after they bury Charles Xavier, because Xavier is killed by X-24 or so. Wolverine's also buried, and he's given the X in terms of the stick. At first, it's a cross above the grave where the children buried him, and they do. Wolverine does lead Laura to other children, and as they're heading into the border to Canada through North Dakota, but he's buried, and the marker on his grave is leaned over by Laura into the X, signifying he's the last of the X-Men. And just me describing it doesn't do it justice. It's a very emotionally packed story. You see Wolverine and Laura bonding. Laura, in a way, kind of Wolverine's daughter because she was cloned essentially out of his DNA. She also has adamantium claws. She has the 2 claws in the fist and then 1 in the foot. And this isn't like adult X-23 like a lot of people are used to in the comics. It's a much younger X-23. He and her essentially, I guess, carrying on the mantle of the Wolverine name, but Wolverine telling her in his last words as he's dying, "Don't be what they made you to be." They essentially made these children and as weapons, experimented on these children, and they're able to kind of set it up through some exposition through videos was taken by Gabriella, essentially showing the children being experimented on with the mutant powers and everything, essentially to create soldiers, to create weapons, but they're kicked out once they have like an official weapon, that being X-24, and essentially making the perfect clone of pretty much Wolverine. But yeah, so a very emotional whole story. We see the bonding of Wolverine and Laura as they develop like a father-daughter relationship, because in a way Laura kind of is his daughter in a way because she's cloned from his DNA, and yeah, and it being rated R allows him to go all out, like I said, in terms of the swearing and in terms of the violence, especially this movie. Pretty much from the get-go, you know it's going to be a violent one when Wolverine, who at this point is driving a limo, to make money so that Professor Xavier and Caliban can move out of where they're staying at, which is an abandoned lot, an abandoned area, raising up enough money so that they can get out of there. But people attempt to steal a limo, and Wolverine impales pretty much all of them. So you know that this is going to be definitely a violent movie, but also they managed to balance out the violence and the emotion when it comes to the movie. He truly making for both a like fun action experience, but also a very emotional experience as well, because Wolverine is still still as cool as he always is, but his body's breaking down, and you can see him in the mirror. He's not healing as fast as he normally would, and it kind of replicates the similar mirror thing they did in the Wolverine movie, which if you haven't already, go check out that review. Pretty much kind of showing and kind of juxtaposing it there, which I think is really well done to show exactly what Wolverine's predicament is, and it kind of feels like a lot of what Wolverine has gone through has kind of led up to this point. The fact that he now has someone he can relate to in Laura, who's been through the exact same things he has. The fact that Professor Xavier, seeing their history and everything, even though it was kind of rewritten as a result of Days of Future Past, to kind of see the relationship they have. So, it feels like really a culmination of it, and that's the reason why it's a point that I'm going to make later. But yeah, so they show that throughout the movie, and I think it's very well done. I didn't cry during the movie, but I kind of almost did at points because it was very sad to see. Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I believe I was like 16 or 17 at the time this movie originally came out. Oh yeah, oh wow, it came out March 3rd of 2017, and I was only 16 at the time, and yeah, I don't think I cried then either, but definitely was emotional, and the fact that it also didn't have a post-credit scene, it just, as you see Wolverine die, the credits roll, and then that's just it, and the movie's over. Or I think that was very well done to really hammer the point home, which again is going to go into the point that I'm going to make again later on in the review. But yeah, so pretty solid movie, and no amount of words can really do it justice. It's fun and it's emotional as well. in terms of what I didn't really like as much about the movie, the thing is, this movie is very loosely based off of the Old Man Logan storyline, the Old Man Logan comic book, which I actually have somewhere in my house. But the Old Man Logan storyline, where Wolverine is much older and all his friends and are essentially gone. But there is a lot of difference between that and this. They essentially have to make like a new story from scratch, but it makes sense why that's the case, because there's a lot of the characters that were present in the Old Man Logan comic they don't have the rights to. So it was Mysterio that manipulated Wolverine into killing all the X-Men. Yes, it was Wolverine that killed all the X-Men in the comics. It's Hawkeye, who is much older and now blind, and that teams up with Wolverine. And as the Hulk that Wolverine is essentially fighting, Wolverine has a whole family and everything, and Hulk pretty much kills them all. So Wolverine, who, because he accidentally killed the X-Men, vowed not to fight anymore, or goes all out one last time and kills the Hulk. And it's actually very gory. It is a very gory comic, and I can tell they did the best they could, even though that they didn't have the rights to those characters. They still tried to have some of the essence of the comic. The fact that there's so much death surrounding Wolverine, even in a family that they befriended, when the car broke down and they took in Wolverine, Professor Xavier, and Laura for the night. They're killed. They're all unfortunately killed by X-24, but so much death and everything surrounding Wolverine. The fact that Wolverine's body is very much breaking down, and Wolverine dying at the end. He doesn't die at the end of the original Old Man Logan comic, but he does here. But it does make sense in the context of the movie. But part of me does wish they were able to properly do an adaptation of the Old Man Logan comic in movie form. Or now, whether or not they want to do it now that the X-Men are on their way to the MCU, we'll have to wait and see. But although they had to conjure up a new story here, which I'm pretty sure, or maybe the story is based off another story as well. Let me know in the comments if it is. But even though they had to conjure up the story there, I think they still did well, and that's kind of a minor nitpick. But it's these reasons: Wolverine's death, the fact that there's no more X-Men, and kind of passing off the torch to the rest of the mutants, and everything we see in this movie. Why I feel like this probably should have been the end of the X-Men saga. Now, granted, in terms of X-Men reviews, we do still have 3 more movies to go, and I'm actually going to try to get them done before the end of the month, before we head into September, because September is going to be a pretty big month for me, and maybe you can take a guess why, but we're going to be moving full speed ahead into other stuff when it comes to September, so I want to try to get the rest of the reviews out before the month is over. But I do feel that this probably should have been the end of the X-Men saga. In a way, this is like the perfect end. Wolverine being the last of the X-Men, finally dying, finally getting the death wish that he had yearned for several years up to this point, and them kind of telling a similar story to what they told in like the Wolverine, where Wolverine's struggling with the concept of death and not wanting to live anymore, and him finally getting that hat, which it's nice that they follow up on that story arc, but everything that the characters have gone through, everything Wolverine has gone through, this really feels like it should have been the end of the X-Men movies. And for all we know, maybe this was intended to be the end. And the fact that there's no post-credit scene, the fact that Wolverine dies and he's the last of the X-Men, there are still mutants, and many like Laura, but they're off presumably to do their own thing. And this really does feel like it could have and really should have been the end of the X-Men saga as we know it. Of course, that's not the case. Like I said, we still have 3 more movies to go. But this does feel like it should have been the end, but it wasn't. But maybe that's just me. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. But that is going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor and like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video so you can see as soon as it drops. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on the movie and your thoughts on my review. Did you dislike the movie? Did you dislike my review of the movie? Let me know. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace.